The philosophy, just to bottom line it, is to take the pain, the insecurities and fears of the character, and rather than sit in it and be defeated by it and self-destruct by it, to use it rather as a powerful fuel to overcome and win with it, to be able to resolve, solve, learn, evolve, and ultimately have catharsis from the character's point of view, then ultimately from your own, because of the personalizations you bring to make it more authentic and more of a proactive drive to go after something as opposed to sitting in your stuff, which is particularly interesting for your audience and depressing too. So we're trying to keep this a fun experience and to be able to also learn from it, which I think is very important. In the arts are about education. They're educating people in the most entertaining way. And isn't that wonderful that we have that opportunity to do so? And so you say, why did I write the new version of this? Now it's still the same 12 steps. It's the 12 steps work. It's proven itself, but there's a lot more information after 20 years. The 20-year anniversaries, it was 2024, because it actually came out, the hardcover, in 2004, and so there's so much I've learned from doing workshops all over the world, and also dealing with different cultures, different types of people and how they negotiate life. But it turns out, since I had gone to school and learned behavioral science, psychology, but most important, interestingly enough, what I learned the most was from my classes of cultural anthropology, because that's the history of culture, why culture exists. So to truly understand mankind, to really duplicate mankind, we have to understand the culture that is the why, how we are able to manage life and succeed in life via realities like geography, weather, these kinds of things. And it's very, very fascinating. So if you play something from a different period of time or from a different culture than your own, you would understand it, because basically what I've learned from doing workshops in pretty much every continent and many, many, many countries, many, many cultures, is that people are people are people are people are people. And we have the same issues, the same traumas, the same fears, the same issues like loneliness and issues of molestation, issues of abuse, issues of feeling like you're not good enough to be loved, and it's on and on and on. And to be able to put that in your work, to be able to relate to the world, the ability to say you're not alone. And that's what makes people want to watch you, right? So there's a whole bunch of new stuff in here. I'm just going to, since I have the book in front of me, I'm going to just kind of go through some of the things. Isn't it pretty? Pretty book. We like this. Okay. Anyway, it's got my favorite color, red. Lots of red. If anybody's in my Zoom classes, they know everything behind me is red. It looks like a brothel. Um, And so the 12 steps are the 12 steps. But I've added more information into how to create a more precise and adaptable version of those 12 steps. So that will be in the new book. Also, there's just like issues of things that I said, you know what, while I was working, this particular scene objective doesn't really work as powerfully as, say, this verbiage of it, or let's add these things to it, because at the time that I wrote the first one, this is what I understood to be true. Of course, like all art, things grow and evolve and change. And so there's a whole bunch of new stuff to every step, and a bunch of updated stories from things that are from today's world. And so also the in the old book, I want to say, I want to keep saying the OG book, but it's like the original book. It still stands the test of time, but it's just more here. In the other book, it's got half a page on emotional diaries, and this one has 30 pages of emotional diaries, really explaining how to do it with examples, because it's a very important for those of you who've been working in the system. You know how important it is to understand the emotional diary and why it's so important for us to truly understand why people do the things that they do, because we're digging deep into the subconscious in an easy and simple and quick manner. And this is the ability to help you understand more about that. So it's not just buried within one of the 12 steps, it is now its own section. Also, creating chemistry. That also was, I think it was a half a page of information about that, but I've upgraded that to its own chapter. And that it's also information based on having worked with people. And this I think is really interesting. Um, the in the other book, it had your deepest, darkest sexual fantasy, and I realized in time to going to all these places that a lot of people have sexual molestation issues, and the deepest, darkest just kind of triggers you into a bad place. And everything that I want to teach you is to bring you to an enlightened place, which requires just the very verbiage of enlightenment is to lighten the load. And we're not, if we're not doing that in terms of the exercises that we're doing, and we're creating something that's making you feel as bad or worse, then that's not what I teach. It's not what I espouse. It's not what I want you to do. So we changed the sexual fantasy part of it to be your silliest, most fun, outrageous ones that make you giggle, so that it makes it the fun factor that allows you to put your body into your heart and connect it to the commonality of pain exercise, which is your heart and your emotions, and matching them up to your body, because that's the two-dimensionality of life. But the creating the sexual fantasy as the energy of the uh, uh, the most powerful energy that exists to create life with. So we're not seeing it as sex per se. We're seeing it as the energy of creation. That's pretty cool. That's pretty wonderful. Um, we had before in the other book 5 addictions that we kind of covered. There's 25 in the new one. And yes, there's probably more out there in the world than 25, but I just covered the ones I have. Um, 25. Okay. So the issue is about addiction, which is what was missed in the first one, which is an addict uses their addiction to solve a problem, not to acknowledge that they have one, but to find a way to solve it. So it breaks it down very simply into, this is the problem, this is the addiction that would solve it, because it solves it for a moment, and then you chase the high, and that's what makes an addiction. So it's really very precise and practical, and how to play an addict, because it happens all the time, and it's all kinds of addictions. There's not just addictions that are obvious ones. There's addictions to things like your misery. There's there are some people who are very addicted to being depressed. There are some people that are addicted to hurting themselves, and there's so many that aren't the obvious ones, and why. And so, and of course, there's lots of characters you're going to be playing that have those, so you can understand how to play it and in the most organic way. Um, the playing the killer part, it's been extended to energy kills, and it's hard to describe that as much as that, just to know that we're trying to find the positive and then normally what's considered a very negative reality, and that is um, finding the energy that we want to kill that will allow us to move on and have a better life, and is explained in the book on how to do so and to make we're trying to remember we're trying to take anything that's conceivably a negative and turn it to some version of a positive. So we're not only for you to enjoy your experience as an actor, writer, or director, but for you to also be able to have your audience enjoy it too. So they're not being feeling like there's a darkness to your choices, but a light to the dark. And we can't know the dark unless we know the light. So it's just kind of the way life works. If you only had light, you wouldn't understand it. If you only had dark, you wouldn't. It would just be something that would make you feel bad and not feel very connected to trying to be proactive to change things because you'd be feeling like there was no point. So you need to have both. The uh, da, 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 from the old book is creating organic fear, but I've added to that creating organic feelings of death and dying. I've added to that. Um, there's a new chapter about losing or regaining consciousness and how to do it like in a practical way, so that you can just do it. And in the voice version, by the way, this is cool. I voiced it myself, and I used all 12 steps. And you'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll experience life. Okay, anyway, the thing is, it's set up in such a way I actually talk you through it. So if you have to do a scene where you have to have fear or you have to be stoned or whatever it is, I literally talk you through it. So you just have to listen to that part. And right before the director says action or before you enter stage, and it's right there for you. So it's very the audio is practical to be used as much as the book. It's really meant to be a combination. We read differently. We take things in differently when we read than when we listen. So this is a combination of information, and so I just thought of that because I literally will take you there to the losing consciousness, to feeling pregnant, to being stoned, being drunk, all this kind of stuff. Um, let's see some of the new ones. Uh, we have some additional things with organically realizing the character's occupation, profession, or career. A whole new chapter about active listening because that's so important. All over the world that I go, I talk to directors, producers, and remember, 40% of my business is directors and writers, not just actors. And so I know what they're looking for when they're casting. And listening is a huge big deal on why you won't get cast. And sometimes people will ask, like, why is it that they gave me a scene for my audition. There's mostly the other person talking, or the other person doing a big ass monologue, and you're just listening because they're watching to see how you listen, what behavior you have, how you listen. This is the whole thing about not just listening, but active listening that will create behavior that will help you have a better performance if you book the job and to get the job. Um, and then a whole bunch of new information about scenes with 3 or more people, using a lot of examples of people who've won awards from doing this using this information in their work. And then we also have a whole new thing about auditions because it's a world of self tapes now. So there's a lot of information about that and how to book a job, with the new arena that the old book. I keep saying the old book. It's not an old book. It's it's in its prime, just like me. And is that it's there's just 20 years more of information that I have, so we didn't do that then because we didn't need to do self-tapes because COVID didn't happen yet. And so COVID created a reality whenever there's a problem. I know it's a cliche, but having a problem is an opportunity to solve it, right? It's a cliche. But the point is that so many things happened as a result of COVID that were bad, but a lot of it was like where we had to find a way to continue the process of making movies, of continuing to do things that were going to allow us to be able to stay working, and self tapes just became the way of the world, and also opened up the world so you don't have to move to necessarily the places that cast you, and you can live wherever you are in the world, to get cast in things you would never have had a chance for before, and how to get the job, what they look for. And also added in this is how to play a killer and actually viscerally understand how it feels like in your body. So when you're going to, because it really does change you physiologically when you get into that place where you need to kill somebody. Things change in your body literally, and how to get there. So it's like so that you actually feel the need inside your body. It's cool. Um, and, uh, and so much. So it's like, so this is how many people have gotten the new book yet? How many people actually read it yet? Yeah, there's a lot of hands went down. Okay. Yeah, yet. There's a lot of pages. Okay. So gonna take the time. I don't have it. Okay, so anyway, for those of you who have gotten through some of it, you will attest. It's. I'm very proud of it. I really think it's a legacy. I think you're going to learn a lot from it, and it's practical. It's a real. I really try to stay away from theoretical issues other than to substantiate the how why the practical stuff works. Very, very specifically needed to do that to take care of making people be able to understand it. Okay, so that being said, I think it's time for some questions.
Yes.
And I think I might.
And we made a selection, so we
on the
had too
books
many
being up
questions.
here?
Sorry.
Wait, hold on. I'm just going to do like a little add to the bookage. More books. Okay. Double the books. All right.
Okay, my turn. All right, first question. Ivana, how
That's
do
me.
you distinguish between using personal pain to fuel a scene and the risk of getting emotionally overwhelmed to the point that it takes away from the character's objective? How do you find that balance? It's a question from Bernard Comte.
Okay. We don't.
Oh, Bertrand, sorry.
Okay. So we don't try to balance. When we're in life and the stakes are high, we don't think, how do I balance this out? We just think, how do I survive, or how do I get this job, or how do I make this person not leave me? We're not thinking, how do I balance that out? So we have to take ourselves into a place of like high stake need, and then the whole idea, if the win-lose situation, is really, really important part of this technique. It's to win is creates the need to win, creates a adrenaline in our system. It's our natural cocaine in our system. It makes us feel good. That's why we like roller coaster rides, or fear inspiring movies, or Halloween thingies that happen. Anything that scares you creates like literal adrenaline in your system, and it feels good. And so what we want to do is have that need to win and not to lose, because we have to have the yin and yang. Why do I want to win so much? Because I'm so afraid of losing. So if I'm in this proactive need to try to win with all the odds against me, and I need to win because the stakes are high to win, or someone's going to die, or I'm going to die, emotionally, spiritually, or actually, I'm going to do whatever it takes to do so. Like the mother who picks up the car from because her baby's underneath it would never have had the strength to pick up that car if the baby wasn't under there. So we want to create that kind of reality by triggering ourselves to the place where we really need something to win with. Now, win is a positive reality. So if we're doing it to just feel, if we're doing this to sit in our awful feelings, it creates incredible versions of defeat. And defeat is depressing. It becomes very self-destructive, which is very difficult for us to kind of like live from moment to moment because we're afraid we're going to screw it up. We're going to fail. So we let the fear of failure make our choices. So if we really trying to like, I'm going to fail. No, I'm not. I'm going to lose this. No, I'm not gonna. And we just have this effort to constantly overcome whatever it is that's making us a doubt and fear. It's to say, I'm going to try to overcome it. I'm going to try to overcome this and try to win. That is exciting. That makes us feel good. It lightens the load because we feel like we have some choices in our life to change things. So it feels good. So there's no danger in feeling good. So we just have to make choices that always allow us to say, not go, how do I cry in this scene? Because that's inconsequential. And honestly, from watching, tapes where they literally send me tapes, my people that I work with, the directors and the producer writers, to say, what do you think? They send me the finalists. What do you think? And they almost inevitably say, I love the way that person's doing something. I love the way the person's listening. It's always it's active. And look what they're doing over there. And it's like they're trying to win, and it's like that's what makes you get cast. That's what they want. Just like life, you always want to support someone who's trying to overcome and win. Right? That person's like, no matter what, I'm going to find a way to overcome and win. Now, sometimes you don't win physically, actually, but the attempt to want to win with all your heart and soul makes you a winner. And we always support and root for a winner. So there's no danger in that. So what we're doing by doing the technique right, by doing the technique in a way that allows us to attempt to overcome and win with, makes us feel like we are accomplishing something of importance. And that always feels good. So we're taking away the danger by working the system in the way that I describe it in the book, not in the way that you have in other ways of sometimes people. One of the things that well, this is going to be another question, but one of the reasons why I created this technique was because I went to a bunch of acting classes, and God, the class would applaud every time an actor got to tears, and I'm going, why are you applauding that? That person's sitting in their pain. It's not applaudable. Like, let's watch them. If they're going to cry, you don't have to cry. If they're going to cry, that'd be because they're trying so hard to win that they're tears of exertion or something, of trying to win. And I remember I was going to tell a story about a girl I worked with who's the director, was also the writer of the script. And so she was in the script. It says she's confronting her father who molested her 10 years before. And in the script, almost every line, it said sobbing, weeping, crying. Every word you could say for crying was, underneath the line. And so I told her, I said, I don't think that all this crying after 10 years, I think she's pissed off, and that because I've not only you did something that took my power away in the most heinous way, but I've been making life's decisions based on duplicating guys in my life who are going to abuse me in some way because that's the evil that I know. So in order for me to overcome it, I have to confront the person who gave it to me so that I can let it go. Put the blame on that person so I don't have to take it on anymore, because victims always think it's their fault. So we went after getting our power back as the scene objective and overall objective. And so there was no tears. There was a lot of like real beautiful confrontation. I'm not letting you get away with anything ever again. And so she's watching people come in and out of the office from the casting, crying and doing that thing that actors often do, which is such an obnoxious thing to do, which is to go out going like, you guys could all go home because I got it. That they're crying. They're still crying as they're walking out. Go home. Go home. It's mine. Okay, so the third person comes out doing the same damn thing with the tears still streaming down their face. And she calls me up from the audition room and she says, Ivana, are we sure we want to go in this direction? And I said, trust me on this. We want to see someone who's not a loser, a victim. We don't support victims. We support people who try to overcome being victimized. And so she went in and she did what we worked on. And the director said, and remember, he wrote this. He said, finally, somebody who understands this character, and cast her. And there were other people that had bigger credits and that kind, but she was the only one that didn't follow the description of what she was supposed to teaching. I call it the acting notes. One of the things that a story I heard on Instagram, someone was talking, the director was talking about how we cast Heath Ledger before he was famous. And something that actually made him famous. I forget what it was. But more importantly was what he said. He said, Heath Ledger came in and was the only one. I remember this guy also wrote the script too. He said he didn't listen to not one version of the note, the acting notes. And he said he brought all this new stuff to it. It was all Heath's stuff, his personal stuff to win. And he said he practically cast him on the spot. He said not one. Okay, I call it paper pleasing. It's all in the book about auditions. Don't paper please, because you're basically listening to what the paper's saying, and the paper's two-dimensional. And what you bring to it is your uniqueness, your flaws, your ways you negotiate life, and so. That's so that's the thing in terms of doing what you think is going to be the most powerful, empowering thing to do, which also makes you feel really good. I'm sorry, I'm just going to go on and on because I have a tendency to do that. Everybody knows me, knows I do that. There was a girl from class who this happened recently in studio class, where her husband died in a motorcycle accident 2 weeks before, and she had to do a scene that had some version of death involved inside of it. And I said, you do not have to do the scene. It's up to you, but I want to do the scene. And so she used her dead husband. She used it because she wanted to overcome the feelings that she was having, that she wasn't going to be able to move on. And she used it to be able to move to use this information to create great art, which would help her move on. And she did. It was beautiful. What she was doing was there was a lot of humor in it. There was a lot of physicality. It was delightful to watch. So I asked her. I said I didn't really have any notes because it was so wonderful what she did. Is that give me 3 adjectives and how you feel? And she said, free. That's interesting. Free. Second thing she said, I don't care what anybody thinks about me. That was something that was an issue for her. But the third one I thought was the most interesting of all. I feel pretty. That means it's all this fear you guys have about being, that's a dangerous thing. It's like if you do it for the reasons of resolving, solving, evolving, and ultimately finding catharsis, it will actually lighten your load and make you feel more empowered.
Thank you, Ivana. Second question. So, I was wondering why the overall objective cannot change during a film or play. Because during life we evolve, grow, and have some life-changing experiences which can have an effect on what you want from life. Does it also mean it cannot influence your overall objective? That's a question from Taike Nikolai.
Okay, so I don't think you understand what overall objective and scene objective is, because it's not personal. It's the character on the page's journey. And you have to tell a story that has a beginning, middle, and end. Now, your life may have changed, but the person on the script has not. They have the same journey. So you can change your inner work, but the story stays the same. So the first things that are most important is the telling the story from the point of view what's in the script. Don't jump to personalizations first, because personalizations only help the story be told with more accuracy to you and your world, with more authenticity and with more desperation, because you're coming from a place of need, and more historical to your world. So if you're changing objectives off your personalizations, you're not telling the story that the writer is telling. The writer, director, and the actor have to tell the same story. The personalizations are there just to make it more accurate to your journey to make that so. So it's just someone who just misunderstood the idea of objectives. They're not personal. They're to the script. Script first, then personalizations.
Okay. Third question. The question I have is about moment before. I always struggle to find the right one. I'm never sure if I made the best choice. Sometimes, with a particular substitution regarding the scene objective, I can choose 3 or 4. One fuels my anger, the other one triggers my guilt or sadness. What to do? What is the best choice? This is a question from Ames Brandenburg.
Well, the thing about moment before is a way to get into the scene, so you're not waiting 3 beats before you're into it. In movies and TV, most scenes are a page, half a page and a quarter. It's like if you need three beats to get into it, then the scene's almost over. So you need a strong moment before. It's either it has to attach itself to the scene, a scene objective. What do I want from in the scene, and who do I want it from? Then you have to put a moment before event that allows you to want with great urgency, timeliness, urgency, and desperation right now. So it's not about triggering guilt. It's not about triggering emotions. It's about triggering the need to be proactive. So you try a bunch of different ones that make sense again to the work that you did in the scene, and see which one makes you feel like you have to act from your body, not from your head. And you have to just keep trying different ones until the one that does it activates your body.
Yeah. Fourth question. In your experience, which traits in an actor make them more bookable? And this is a question from Anne Weinknecht.
Did everybody understand that?
In your experience, which traits in an actor make them more bookable? So they book more roles.
Everybody understood this? What can you do to make it more bookable?
Yes.
Okay, just a lot of people look like they didn't know what you were saying. Okay, so I want to make sure, because it's a very important question. Okay, again, because I work with so many, and I used to produce movies. And my husband was a director, won a lot of awards, done hundreds of hours of television and movies, and has won some pretty large awards too, like TIFF and um, London Film Festival, Tribeca, a selection at Cannes. I mean, some good stuff. So I know books. And actors think they need to please whatever they think is on the page of whatever they believe the people who are casting you want to see. But what they would truly want to see is someone that's going to plump up the words to make it be something more. If all we needed was the script to be exactly what was written, we just put the script on the screen and let people read it, because they're going to do the same thing you're doing. And to me, when I was in casting, it was like 9 times out of 10, 9 people who are entirely different people were doing exactly the same read. And that 1 or 2 people that didn't, they would get the role, or they would be remembered for future roles, because no good audition goes without reward. But they were coming from their own place of how they go after that particular objective, which brings your quirks, your mannerisms, and the thing that happens in their head saying, nobody else could do this part but that, because that person's so special, because you all are unique. You all are unique. There's not one person that's alike, because I have 7 brothers and sisters, and we're none of us the same. We have the same parents, but life happens in different ways that makes us different. And a lot of us, our priorities are different. How we operate in life are different, yet we come from the same, the same, 2 parents that didn't really change all that much in the years that we were together as a family, so the thing is, in order to be, you have to like do the work. The 12 steps, they're really, really important. They work in auditions, and you have to take risks. You make safe choices, and you get safe results, which means the best you're going to get is good feedback. And you can't take good feedback to the bank. You could try, they won't accept it. I'm sorry, that's very nice. You got a good callback, but you know what? I can't put that in your account. Okay, so if you want to really be booked, and that's what's most important, and I say booking is why you're in my classes, why you study this technique, and books really great jobs and gets really good awards, because people are doing things that are exciting. I'm watching someone take the worst of circumstances and try to win with it. That's pretty exciting. And so I'm just like, these people are not magical people. They're not monsters. They're just people. And if you make them respond to you like any person would respond to you, like a regular audience would, they're more likely to want to have you on their set or on their stage to work with you, because you excite them. And your quirks and your mannerisms, don't throw them away. They're the best. The things that make you flawed are the things that make you special. So you embrace those things. You acknowledge those things. You play with those things. And think about your favorite actors. They're very nuanced by their very specific things that they do. Nicholson does what Nicholson does. Al Pacino does what he does. Meryl Streep does. You know their performances, because they always bring themselves to play. And then in extreme circumstances, our quirks and mannerisms are even more pronounced.
Okay, next question. The book outlines 12 clear tools to help actors analyze and personalize a character. The final step is letting go. What does that really mean in practice, and how can an actor truly let go in a performance? This is a question from Gustav Koenigs.
Well, Gustav, yes, let it go is the hardest one. This is a question I get asked all over the world. How do I let it go? Well, first you have to build your house. I call building the house. Do the 11 steps. Building the house. Once we build it from the ground up, from like this, digging the hole in the ground and putting the cement in, and putting the walls up and the insulation and the roof and the room dividers and all that kind of stuff. You can once you put a really solid, that's the 11 steps, solid foundation, what happens is that I could paint the colors of the walls any color I want. I could change my mind and 2 seconds later change the color. I could change the decor from modernism to antiques because the foundation is so strong. So if all you do is some work, it's basically trying to paint a wall without a wall. So what's the paint going to do? It's going to drip to the ground. So it's not going to do anything. So the thing is that letting it go, if you have a strong foundation, it's easier to trust that all the things that you worked on are going to come up and they're going to allow impulses. Without letting it go, there will be no impulses. You will have planned it, and there's nothing worse than actors planning stuff. I always like to say, actors have stupid ideas because their ideas aren't what we really do. What we really do has to be triggered by putting ourselves in that. And I say actors, I mean like me too. Like, the thing is like I planned something and that plan never works out. When I was an actor, I could give you a million stories about how I fucked it up, by planning stuff. I knew this was going to be so funny. This is such a funny bit I came up with, and I planned that. And I'll give you, one story with Gary Shandling, who was a friend too before I started working with him, before I started teaching, and it was he brought me in straight to network. And I was going to kill it. In comedy terms, that means good stuff. You're not stabbing anybody. You're actually nailing it, right? So so I had one thing after another that this is going to they're going to be on the floor laughing. And I think it was a 3.5-page scene. So I come in with a great deal of confidence that I am going to have them on the ground laughing. And so first beat happens, the big moment of laughter that's supposed to happen. And I got nothing. Okay, now let's fast forward to 8 more times of nothing. But there was a reaction, and the reaction became... I will read their inner monologue. What's she doing? This doesn't make sense. Huh? What? There's a lot of that. So I sulked out of the room, hoping to never, see these people again, because they'll remember the worst audition on the planet. Because I planned stuff. So the thing is you've got to let it go is really one of your most important tools in this. You've done all your work. You got to trust it's going to come out in different ways, not the way you planned it, but it's going to come out in really interesting ways. And when people really in high stakes situations, I call it inappropriate reactions. When you go to a funeral, have you ever laughed in the wrong place? Yeah. Have you ever had a situation where you took something that somebody said that you thought was funny? It turned out it wasn't to them. And you're laughing away and they're looking at you like you should die because you just said something really. And so it's inappropriate reactions. They happen all the time in real life. The more you want something, the more those happen. You're going to someone's apartment first time. You're alone with that person. You've never had sex with that person. You'd like to have sex with that person. And you start fiddling around with something in their space and you break it, But if you planned everything, that kind of stuff can't happen. And so letting it go is you just have to trust. But you can't trust until you built your house. And that takes a lot of work. To be great, it takes a lot of work, and the greatness is in details.
Last question, Ivana. Yeah, okay. How or why did you begin with writing the book The Power of the Actor? And that's a question from Caroline Podgorski.
Okay, so I wrote the book because I have just really simply, when I was acting, I had read most of the really good books about acting, but there was so much theory, I didn't know how to actually apply it. So I said, someone needs to write a book on practical nuts and bolts. How do I do this? How do I do script analysis with the math involved, with the structure involved? Every formula, first of all, it's 12 steps, and then every formula has numbers to it. You do this, you do this, you do this, you do this. And it's like, when I was creating these formulas, I had my editor, who was not an actor, who had no desire to be an actor. I had her do the exercises that would help you feel fear, or like prepare to somebody dying, or killer, or whatever the formula was. And when she didn't feel it, I'd say I have to rework the formula, just like any science. And when she felt it like organically in her body, then I knew then it was ready to. It was a actual formula that worked, and so it just became, the point of the book became more and more about how to supply what wasn't being supplied in other books on the subject. So that's the reason why I did that. And I hope that all of you, because a good many of you have already read the first one, a good many of you already have the second one, and you can attest to that's what I think I believe I accomplished that. And what I want to do is thank you all for believing in me enough to have read the first book to get the second book, and I think a good many of you are going to be part of the workshop, and we're going to have so much fun, because I came up with some really great scenes. I'm really excited about it, and we're going to have a great deal of fun in the process of opening up some like really cool doors of new stuff that that I have added to the repertoire.
Thank you, Ivana.